Where does autism spectrum disorder come from? It comes from a lot of places, and nobody really has a good answer. But the people who I like, so they're right, and the people who agree with me, so they're clearly right, subscribe to something called the full cup theory. So kids are little vessels that take in a lot of stuff. And eventually, and their bodies are good at getting rid of bad toxic stuff. Your brains are good at it. You have astrocytes that clean up the neurons. You have all kinds of other systems that clean your body. Eventually, you reach a level where it's just too much. Whether that environmental stress is the stress that comes with 21st century life on Long Island, or whether it's the toxic stress of drinking from an aquifer that is amongst the most polluted in the country, or whether it's cesium falling from the atmosphere, or whether it is GMO food, whether it's genetically modified foods, who knows what it is, but something happens, and there's an assault, and the kid stops developing in a neurotypical way, and they call that the full cup theory. And so our job is to lower the full cup, right? Lower the stresses, take some of that biological stuff out. What's in the full cup? Lack of tummy time. Lack of tummy time has contributed to the autism spectrum explosion. You know that after the sudden infant death findings from the CDC about 25 years ago, 20 years ago, we stopped putting kids on their stomachs in the crib, and so now they are always on their back. And then pediatricians had to start prescribing tummy time. Had to start saying, well, now you've got to do some tummy time with your kids, and parents, were able or not able to do that. So kids spend an awful lot of time on their backs. You need, as you know, to be on your stomach, to push up and flex. You need to lift your head. You need to crawl in this pattern. It's very important. Otherwise, you don't integrate your reflexes. If your reflexes stay immature, you're having trouble mapping your body, you're having trouble mapping the space, and as a result, you have trouble being abstract. It's just true. So if you're wondering why recess is the most important part of the day, because that's where you integrate all the things that you've learned, including all the social things, never mind the playground politics, right? Playground politics is a beautiful thing. But also just your body moving in space. Mass moving in time through space. You might have had an illness. You might have had an extended lack of early attachment. I actually always think of autism as a disorder of the rapprochement stage. For those of you who are big fans of Margaret Mahler and Dr. Ani Bergman, who still lives in New York City and is still seeing patients, she is 95, they did the early attachment work. I always think that this is a disorder of rapprochement. The child went away and just kept going, never came back. And there are many, many more stressors. But once one of those stressors happens, it is our idea that it stops neurotypical development and kids get stuck, and that's what looks like autism. Then it becomes a matter of child development. Other than psychostimulants and other behavioral interventions, here's the other treatment. An interesting thinking-based curriculum tied to a child's interests and his or her developmental level, time to think and grow and move in space. You know what Einstein said, right? So you guys quote Rudolf Steiner, but when lecturers go out and they want to look smart, they quote Einstein universally. And you can just say Einstein said it, because nobody will. So you know what Einstein said, right? Is that in order to understand something, he had to be able to think about it, a mass moving in space through time. And he still didn't understand it until he felt it in his body. That's what, and I actually got that directly from Daniel Stern, who gave a great lecture, the great psychiatrist Daniel Stern. He didn't understand it until he felt it in his body. Mass moving through space and time. And that's how kids learn. That's how human beings learn. And that's how Einstein understood things when he did his thought experiments, riding on a beam of light, so that he could understand what it was like what relativity meant. Enough sleep, no screens. They call them screens in the Steiner world too. We call them screens in the DIR world. Nutrition with whole non-toxic food and loving attention and support. And that's the other treatment for autism. And it is, I think, at least partially your model. And I hope to say that it is, in fact, the Rebecca School model.